In this tutorial, we will look at two types of tests that are commonly used to describe rheological properties of solid foods. These are the fundamental tests and imitative or empirical tests. Fundamental tests are aimed at obtaining the physical properties of a food material that are inherent to the food. These properties do not depend upon the size or dimensions of the sample that is being tested, or the testing equipment that is used, or the loading conditions that are applied during the testing procedure. The examples of properties that are obtained via fundamental tests include the modulus of elasticity, the shear modulus, or the bulk modulus, or Poisson ratio. In case of imitative or empirical tests, these are used to determine the attributes of a material, such as hardness or puncture force or extrusion energy. The test conditions, such as the mass of the sample, its geometry, the sensor that is used in testing, these all affect the parameters that are measured. When these attributes are obtained via these imitative tests or empirical tests, then the test conditions, such as the mass of the sample, its geometry, the shape of the sensor used in testing equipment, must be stated with the resulting value of that attribute. Since texture, appearance, and flavor are recognized as the three major attributes of a food that impact that food's acceptability by a consumer, mechanical tests of texture that imitate sensory perception are, of course, highly desirable. Therefore, if testing equipment has been developed, such as a shear press, a gelometer, or a tenderometer. These types of testing equipment allow us to determine the empirical or the imitative properties of the food. However, as stated above, there are the conditions both for the sample that is tested and the type of equipment used to obtain that value must be clearly stated when that value is provided. Whereas we don't have such a requirement for properties obtained via fundamental tests, which are inherent to the food. So the question may come up, why don't we just use fundamental tests? Well, for some of the attributes, such as crunchy or brittle foods, the fundamental tests can be very challenging. Therefore, in determining certain attributes of foods, we can get good correlations between values obtained from sensory tests and the ones that are measured using imitative tests. So we use terms such as hardness, crispness, fracturability. These are more commonly described using empirical tests. So in summary, care is needed in distinguishing between fundamental tests and imitative or empirical tests. Both have value in obtaining the characteristics of a food material, but they have their own limitations as well as applications. We will be examining some of these distinguishing features of these tests in other tutorials.